Welcome to the Hockey Writers Prospect Corner, a show with our top prospects writing crew, bringing you the latest news, analysis, scouting reports, mocks, rankings, and much more. From the World Juniors to the NHL Draft floor, from the farm to the NHL, our team covers everything that happens in the world of prospects. So sit back, grab a notebook, and get ready for Prospect Corner.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of Prospect Corner here at the Hockey Writers. I'm your host, Matthew Zator, and as always, joined in by Peter Baracchini and Dayton Reimer. Guys, we're now focusing on the draft, World Juniors. We wrapped that up last week. And a bunch of stuff has come out. Peter, you had your rankings, your new ones coming out. And then today, NHL Central Scouting did their own, got their midterm rankings out as well. So lots of stuff to talk about in this episode. How's it going, Peter?
It's going great. Yeah, it seems like the last few weeks has all been, draft-related content. And we're getting into that full mode right now where movement is happening, and there were some surprises with NHL's Central Scouting. So yeah, I can't wait to get into it.
For sure. And Dayton, how's it going?
Also pretty good. Yeah. It's just fun to dive back into prospects. I do a lot of it with the World Juniors, but this is like full on prospect, nothing else.
Yeah.
If the World Juniors are my favorite time, the draft is my second. This is a great time.
Yeah, and it's a long period of time too. So we got a few months to go of coverage. Lots of fun stuff coming up, as we did last year. We had lots of videos, lots of coverage for the 2024 draft, and we'll be doing the same thing for the 2025 draft as well. Will be a little different because it's not. I mean, it's decentralized, right? This year, it's a little different from our normal stuff, but we'll still cover the draft. It'll still be fun time. So let's jump in, Peter, to your latest rankings, which were released a couple days ago, I believe. And you did not change your number one overall, like like NHL Central Scouting did. So let's run through your top five to start here.
Yeah, I will say this. It was very, very close, like a very, very thin margin of who I had at number one because it was very difficult. I think you could go either way based on James Higgins or Matthew Schaefer at this point. I think they're the clear cuts at this point. So my top five is, at the moment, James Higgins, but at number one from Boston College because of that standout World Junior Championship. But Matthew Schaefer at number two, despite the injury. I've talked to some people, and they said despite the injury, they would have no problem keeping him or putting him at number one first overall, as we've seen with NHL right now. So because he's the best at his position, because he's the best available defender who can have that offensive upside and sound two-way game, it's very tough to find. So there's a reason why he's in at first. So for NHL, and may change for me at some point because I was flip-flopping back and forth between the two. So at the moment, one, James Higgins, two, Matthew Schaefer, but by the narrowest or slimmest of margins. Number three, Porter Martone. Again, I still love that, tenacious, hardworking, forechecking type of style. It's the type of style that will win you playoff games where he's battling down low, using his hands in tight to create havoc in front. It's just absolutely dynamic. Number four, Michael Nisa, just absolutely killing the OHL competition right now. One of the top scorers, solid point per game pace, but also just a threat on both sides of the puck where he's very dangerous to anticipate plays and quickly transition. It's on display every single night when he takes the ice, and there's a reason why he's up there, someone within that top five, and possibly putting his name into the first overall. And at number five, it's Anton Frondel. Despite some inconsistencies, despite dealing with some injuries as well, I still like his upside as a centerman. I like the size, I like the smarts, I like the skill that he brings. And it is, I keep, whenever I see him play, it's very reminiscent of that of Leo Carlson, who I was a big fan of. Matt Dayton, I wouldn't probably shut up about him a few years back. But yeah, I love those big body centermen. I love the skill that they could bring. And he's very, very reminiscent of that with the skill, the two-way game, the anticipation. So he rounds out my top five.
Yeah, it's a couple Swedes in your top 10 as well, which, like I said before, last year didn't have as many high-end guys, but this year already a couple here. So yeah, we'll see where they actually go. Dayton, what do you think about the top five here?
Not I don't think anything really surprising. Like that is the five best prospects available. After the World Juniors, I thought James Higgins really established himself as the top choice. But Matthew Schaefer was right behind him, and if he'd played a full tournament, I think that would have pushed him
Mhm.
ahead. Unfortunately, there's the injury that is going to take some time. He looks really dominant though, and I've been really impressed with how he has done so far. Porter Martone, maybe not a great tournament, but he's still a great prospect.
Mhm.
Michael Misa arguably should have been on the World Junior tournament, the Canadian roster, but what are you going to do? He's still
Yeah.
having a great season. And I'm still of the opinion of like, who are you going to take out? You're probably going to take out Porter Montone.
Yeah.
You got to take out somebody to put in somebody, and that's a rant for another time. And then yeah, Anton Frondel. I would maybe put Eklund ahead of him, but
Mm.
he's six on your list, so I have very few complaints.
Yeah, he's right there. I mean, he can flip flop between, right? So, Peter, let's move into the bottom half of the top 10 here.
Yeah, and to Dayton's point too, Victor Eklund is at number 6. Having that again, similar to Frondell, having the pro experience, but he just seems to be taking another step a little bit further, a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more deceptive, and has a bit of a shot better than his brother William, which is why, again, kind of similar to Hagens and Schaefer. The battle between the top Swede and Frondell and Eklund is getting very, very close, and there is a good chance that Eklund could move up and surpass him very, very quickly or very soon on my next ranking. So, for the time being, they're very, very close together, 5 and 6. That's why they're neck and neck basically at this point. But love the skill, love the agility that he brings. I love the ability to draw in players and be deceptive. He showed that at the World Juniors. Yeah, so that's why he's at number 6. At number 7, Roger McQueen from the Brandon Wheat Kings. Again, toward start, injury derailed him, but there's still a lot of talk that if he was healthy and when he gets back to being healthy, there's no doubt that he's going to be within that conversation of top 5, top 3, possibly because of the power, because of the shot that he brings. He's in at number 7. At 8 is Jackson Smith from the Tri-City Americans, probably where we get to some of the bit of the surprises, but I just love his anticipation. I just love the way that he breaks up plays so calmly and quickly transitions the other way. Saw that at the Helenka Gretzky Cup. It's still on display right now. Pass first kind of player. I want to see him shoot the puck a little bit more, but absolutely smart with his decision making with the puck, with his passes. It's very crisp. That's why he's at number 8 for me. At number 9, Caleb Denoye, all around situations type player. The intensity, the work ethic, it's always there. Love his drive. One of the top producers in the QMJHL right now, along with a few others that I'll probably give a little honorable mention after, but just the qualities that he brings, the intangibles, his skill on the ice, it's just absolutely amazing to see. So it's hard to not leave him outside of the top 10. And at number 10, again, we're talking about surprises, and Cameron Reed is probably one of them. I love that simple sound two-way game. It was very, very appealing when I was watching that CHL USA Top Prospects game. It's been on display all season long with the Kitchener Rangers. They're one of the top teams for a big reason. And Reed, as one of the top producing defenders, he's up there with his production. At the time when I wrote this, he had 30 points in 38 games. I'm going to have to double check right now, but I love the composure that he brings. I love the smarts. I love the steady play on both sides of the puck. And 32 and 41 games. So yeah, he's been a little bit more productive ever since I posted this article. So, yeah, I'm probably this is probably one of my more shocking or surprising picks, but I would probably put him in that top 10 because of the sound game that he's showing right now.
Yeah, I mean, there was a few changes from your last one for sure. Some guys make it into that top 10, which we'll talk about in a sec. But Dayton, what do you think about the rest of the top 10?
Well, I think Peter described it very well. It's a little surprising. Um, Roger McQueen, I think you hit the nail on the head. When he gets back, he'll have a great bounce, and he could even jump up in the rankings. But
Mhm.
he's just been injured for so long. He started the season so strongly, and to have that momentum taken away from him, especially in such a pivotal moment, I think is going to hurt, unfortunately. Um, I would really like to see him play more because he's got a very dominant game. He knows how to score. He knows how to use his 6'5" frame. Um, but you can't do that when you're nursing an injury. So hopefully he gets healthy very soon. Jackson Smith, again, a very solid defenseman. I would have maybe put him a little lower. I have watched him play. He came up to Saskatoon here a couple of weeks ago, blanking on when. Nothing really stood out that was great, but also not a lot of like things that stuck out that were bad. He's a very consistent defender, and if I had my notes in front of me, I would reference them, but I left them in another room. So we'll move on. Caleb Denoyer is one of my favorites. I think 9 is a great place for him at the moment, and Cameron Reed is somebody I have not looked at all. I know nothing about him. I will look at him more now that he's 10th on your list, but um, a little bit of maybe a spoiler, but he only ranks like 27th on Central Scouting's rankings. So
Mhm.
this is a surprising pick across the board, which go for it. I love a surprising pick.
For sure.
Taking more risks this time around. So
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, we've seen so many different surprises, guys getting bumped into the top 10 when the draft happens, guys going into the top 3. I mean, there's so Beckett Seneca, no one thought he was going to be that third. Maybe on draft day, there was a bit more chatter about it. But before that, I don't think anyone was really talking about him being there. So there's going to be surprises. We all know it. There's never a straight draft where everyone's like, yes, that's exactly wherever it goes, right? So we'll see how that all goes. All right, Peter, let's move to some risers from your last rankings. Obviously, there was a couple guys that made into that top 10 that weren't there before. What were your biggest risers from this one here?
I already talked about it with Victor Eklund. He was at 24 for me. He's one of the biggest risers, jumping up into the top 10 and just outside the top 5. I already gave my reasonings why, so I'm not going to pick him. But Brady Martin is one name that I'm going to pick. He was 25 on my list last time, and he jumped up all the way to 14. Kind of that similar play that Jet Lachenko had with his speed, all around play, the ability to anticipate plays, break them up, and quickly transition to offense too. It's very reminiscent of that as well, and I think his trajectory is going to be similar to that of Jet Lachenko, where he could be a little bit higher up. I just ever since that Hlinka Gretzky tournament, he's been on fire. Not necessarily on fire production wise, because the Sioux Greyhounds are, you know, kind of mid tier, but the production speaks for itself for him, where he's leading the charge and he's always a difference maker every single time he's on the ice. So him moving up from the lower half of the 20s all the way up to the top 15 is a big one for me. I was on the Jet Lachenko train last year. Going to be on the Brady Martin train, and I'm going to keep pushing that all season long. Cameron Schmidt, he was 27th on my last one. He bumped up again to the top 15, 13th overall. Again, when you have a dynamic goal scorer and the way that he can shoot the puck, Dayton, you probably seen him quite a bit. The way that he releases, the way that he's able to push defenders back, it's just amazing what he's able to do. And despite the size factor, it should go out the window because he's able to hold his own. He can push defenders back. He can push and slice his way through defenders. It's very, very, he's very focused and very driven, and I think teams are going to love that despite his smaller frame. And it's one that I can't push further down the list because I feel like he's going to be even pushing that top 10 spot. The other one is Bill Zonin, and I'm going to be on that train as well. He was an honorable mention last time and moved up into 25 and probably still going to be rising even on my next ranking. He's already second in QMJHL scoring, 58 points in 39 games, already matching his season total from last season as well. because there's quite a few power forwards in here, obviously Martone, Lyndon Lajkovic, a lot of names that are going to be up front, but I think this is going to be one of those names. Bill Zonin is going to be one of those players that isn't getting a lot of attention and really should, because of the speed, because of the hands, because of his ability to cut to the middle of the ice, be deceptive with his playmaking, has a heavy shot. He can do it all. Defensively, obviously, a lot of players this age still work in progress, but I like his ability to come back. I like the ability to back check, take time and space away. I think it's a little bit more of an underrated aspect to his game, but the offensive package that he has as a power forward is very, very strong, and I think it's just going to help him increase his draft stock throughout the season.
I like the Cameron Schmidt riser. You all know how I love guys like that. And we'll see if he gets drafted around that spot, because we all know these smaller guys, they never are really high picks. Although, you're looking at Cole Caulfield, he did end up being a high pick. It's just he dropped a lot from where he probably should have gone. I think Schmidt's going to happen to be that same. He's not going to drop in the second round, but I think he's going to be in a place where you're like, yeah, he probably should have been a bit higher. And we all know what Cole Caulfield has done in the NHL now. And I think Schmidt could definitely be that type of player with his shot, with his speed and all that, similar to Cole Caulfield actually. So we'll see where he actually goes. But I like that he rose up on your list there. Dayton, what about you for risers? Do you see anyone that kind of caught your eye?
Yeah, a couple of guys, and I'm going to use my Western League bias because I can. Do it. Yeah, Lyndon Lajkovic is one of my favorite players for the draft. I am really excited to see him at 12. I think maybe pushing into the top 10 is a bit generous, but he plays such an interesting game, and I've seen him demonstrate like several different things in what I've seen. In games that I've watched anyways. Yeah, he can really shoot. He loves getting the puck and just firing it away. Maybe needs to work on some shot selection, but he's got a strong shot already. He likes using his body to block out guys. He's got a good defensive sense. He can post up in front of the net and tip in pucks. He's a really complete player already, and like he's 17, right? You're going to get someone who's going to develop into someone who is very dominant. That was a bit of a clunky sentence, but we'll move on. Another guy I've been able to watch live is Braden Coots. The Seattle Thunderbirds don't have a great team this year, but Coots really stands out as like their driving force, and he's taken control of that team and really tried to push them forward along with Carter Bear. But when I watched him, or wait, no, Bear is he's Everett. He's half an hour north. Yeah, no, I think just accessing the memory, I think Coots is really the only offensive force, especially now that Sawyer Minio has been traded away.
Yeah.
So he's been really good, a really well-rounded game again. He's very strong on the puck. He's he got a really hard work ethic. Like he really just gets in there and does anything that he can to help his team, which is really admirable, especially on a weaker roster like Seattle. And you have him at 28 and didn't have him before. So I think that's awesome.
There you go. Yeah, it's now he's really the only threat now that Sawyer Minio's been traded. So yeah, we'll see if he'll probably get a bit more responsibility now too, to be that type of a player. So we'll see how much he rises up as the draft comes about here.
I should also mention that Radim Murtika is also on the team recently.
Right.
And he's another riser. I think he was a riser on your list.
Yes, 19.
Yes, defenseman, scoring a ton of points. I haven't had the privilege of watching him yet, but I'm excited to check him out because he could be very good.
There we go. All right, Peter, the other side, guys that fell in your latest one.
Quite a few actually. I mean that's the whole point about all these rankings, right? Most notable one is Ivan Ryabkin from 5 all the way to the bottom or the last half of the first round to 27th, and he just didn't quite have the wow factor that everyone expected of him at his age group this year, and that is a little bit concerning considering the way that he dominated The competition last year, 58 points in 44 games. I mean, that's absolutely impressive. This year, he only had 12 points in 15, saw scratches at points, very inconsistent, just wasn't playing his game the way that he normally does, with using that size to his advantage, getting to the open lanes, using that hard shot to his advantage. And as a result of that, he moved over to the USHL with the Muskegon Lumberjacks, and there was talks about him going um, from October, November on. He's already made his way over, and he already has 3 goals in 2 games. So that's actually a good sign for him that maybe he's found his game. The USHL is becoming a little bit more dominant, a little bit more competitive junior league. So I think that's going to work to his advantage with the size factor, the way that he's able to win puck battles, get to the open space, and unleash a shot. I think that with this move, if it continues to work out, he'll continue to move up for me and for many other people as well, because he's dropped quite a bit in a lot of rankings as well. So yeah, I think that he's got a lot of potential to reclaim his spot and move further up. The other few that really stood out for me, Charlie Trethaway from the U18 NTDP program. Obviously, I think this is a little bit of a weaker class with the NTDP program. Obviously, with Hagens moving up, with Hensler moving up to the NCAA, up front's taking a little bit of a hit, same as with the back end. Still competitive, still plays that physical two-way game, but there's just it seems a little bit of an off factor in terms of him choosing his spots to be a little bit more offensive driven. Not as strong defensively. His awareness is a little bit off at times. So he's fallen out of the first round all the way to the second as well. And unfortunately, Jack Ivankovic, who I've been a big fan of, has slipped into the second round. Considering him and Ravensburgen, I believe, in my first one were... Actually, he was 32, and I had Ravensburgen as an honorable mention. So they basically switched spots, basically. Obviously, the World Juniors did not play a factor. He only played 1 game, and even then he stood on his head when Latvia made a very strong push, made a lot of high-end degree level saves. But after a hot start, he kind of cooled off with the Brampton Steelheads. Numbers took a bit of a dip as well. Not saying that that's going to be the reason why he falls. It's just Ravensburgen has that size factor. Obviously, that's another thing that teams are going to look at. Ivankovic is 5'11". Ravensburgen is obviously has that advantage, 6'5", 192 pounds. So yeah, he's taken a bit of a fall. Ravensburgen's has moved up as well. Yeah, and he's just looking very, very dominant for the Prince George Cougars right now. So Ivankovic really has kind of lost that step with the Steelheads. Hopefully he's able to get that back and push his way back into the first round, because I do like what he brings.
Yeah, Ravensburgen is the first ranked goaltender on NHL Central Scouting for the North American side too. So they're seeing that as well. Ivankovic is 5th. So yeah, there's a few guys ahead of him on the North American list. Dayton, anyone that stood out as fallers for you?
Cole Reshny was a bit of a faller, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bit of a faller, yeah. He fell out of the top 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I guess is fair. He's still doing pretty well in Victoria. And they are going to be making a bit of a playoff push. They added... Ooh, who do I remember they added? They have been a bit of... Yeah, Brandon Lazowski. That's why. So they added a very talented goal scorer from the Saskatoon Blades, who already has 5 goals in 5 games with them. He will be really trying to help them push into a playoff spot and make it further than the first round. They weren't as aggressive as some of the Central teams in the WHL, who really went all in. But having someone like that play with Reshny should help him bounce back a little bit. At this point, though, yeah, he's not a top 10 guy, unfortunately. Another guy that jumped out was Reese Hamilton, a defenseman for the Regina Pats, I believe. He had a fantastic rookie season last year. He had 31 points in 42 games with the Calgary Hitmen, and he's got 5 total this year between Calgary and Regina. It just hasn't been there, and it's really sad to see because he could have been a potential first round pick. He had a lot of things going well for him. He's got a pretty good size on the back end, um, and was ranked a top 50 pick by most. Some even had him like top 30 based on his elite prospects page there. You have him at 50, which is almost a little generous at this point too. He's really fallen off, and it's been
Yeah.
sad to see.
Yeah, that's a pretty big drop, especially in the production from his rookie season too. So hopefully he can kind of turn it around in the rest of the season. But yeah, a bit of a drop there. All right, well that's your latest rankings. You can take a look at that. The link is in the description if you want to take a look at the full rankings uh, for Peter for this time, and then I know our final ones are coming not soon, but they will be. They'll be out as well. So let's jump over to the NHL Central Scouting midterm rankings, which has a couple surprises, maybe, maybe not. But we'll start to quickly go through the North American list. Just Peter, I'll start with you. Any surprises in this list for the North American side? Of course, Matthew Schaefer is the first overall pick according to the on North American side. You got James Haggins at 2, Michael Meese at 3, Porter Martone at 4, Roger McQueen at 5. I mean, there's some names there that we already mentioned. Anyone on here that you're kind of surprised at where they have fallen here?
In terms of that top 10, not really. I do like Jake O'Brien being in that top 10 because going to do a little plug when he on our 6 in the 6 podcast that I do with Andrew Forbes, we had Lindsey Hofford come on, and he has coached a couple of players that are up for the NHL draft this year, Luca Romano and Jake O'Brien. And he spoke very highly about Jake O'Brien, about how this is a player that's going to continue to rise up because of that skill set, because of that deceptiveness, the two-way playmaking ability. Um, he's going to move up, and he's going to show, and his play this season has shown why. And to see him in the top 10 is a pleasant surprise because of the fact that when I've seen him, it's like he has eyes in the back of his head. His head is on a swivel. He's always aware. He's always looking around to make a play. Would like to see him finish more plays off, but his passing ability and decision making is just on point right now. I had him at 16, but definitely in that good spot where top 8 among or top 10 among North American skaters. In terms of like names moving up and improving their stock, I'm surprised to see in a good way Jack Nesbitt as well. From the Windsor Spitfires. Obviously, when you think of the Windsor Spitfires, you think of players that have already been drafted: AJ Spalassi, Liam Greentree, Ilya Protas. But Nesbitt is 4th in team scoring right now, 40 points in 41 games. And I love the blend of power that he brings, the size, the goal scoring abilities, the way that he is able to find the middle of the ice so easily. He just bullies his way through. He's 6'4", 183 pounds. Can't teach that size. He's using that to his advantage as well. So seeing him within the top 20 is a great surprise to see. Because I feel like both, I mean, I already talked about O'Brien, about how he's moved up, but I think Nesbitt is really improving his stock as a result of that.
Yeah, Windsor Spitfires are a really good team this season after having, really bad season in 23-24. So, and yeah, all these guys are helping them out in that, and Nesbitt definitely is one of them. Dayton, what about you for the top 10, the rest of this list for the North American side here?
Yeah, like I mentioned, that Murtika with Seattle has been having a pretty good season. Is he 6th overall? Good season? That I'm not sure about. That
Mhm.
that was a little bit surprising to me. See him 6th on the North American skaters list. I wonder if it's a bit of a size bias. He is almost 6'6", and a right shot defenseman.
Yeah.
I mean, that will be looked on pretty favorably come draft time. But I don't know. There's still a handful of guys I would grab before him at this point.
Mhm.
Um, Seeing Blake Fiddler down at 24, a little bit surprising. Or are we saving our reactions for after that until a little later? Or
No,
just
no, this is like overall.
overall? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, then
yeah.
a few guys did jump out at me. I love that David Lewandowski is 52.
Mhm.
That's I think, good recognition of what he's been able to do in Saskatoon, and at the World Juniors. He was one of Germany's arguably best players.
Mhm.
Um, and I think he scored their first goal of the tournament and also got their first penalty of the tournament. He's a really solid player, and I've really enjoyed watching him play when I am at the games in Saskatoon here for the Blades. A couple of guys that really fell though, and I'm kind of surprised they did. Um, Cameron Schmidt, Cameron Schmidt is much lower than he should be
Oh
at
yeah.
30.
Mhm.
That's not right. But oh, he's under 5'9". It's like, get over it.
Yeah.
Right?
Listen to
Yeah.
Dayton.
Oh
Get over it.
yeah.
Some other guys who are way lower than they should be. Luka Radivojevic. You guys know where he is?
I believe he's further down in he's down in the hundreds, I think.
Yeah, I just saw him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just lost him here. Where did he go?
I
Oh,
just saw him too.
oh, there he is. 120th.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like, okay,
Yeah.
sure, he's not having the
Maybe
greatest season in Muskegon. He's got 10 assists still in 19 games, no goals yet. He looked pretty decent with Slovakia at the under 20 World Juniors. That is not 120th overall. Like,
No.
that to
second
me
and third round,
feels-
maybe.
Yeah, he would be a solid second round pick, I think, at this point. But he's 5'9" and a bit.
Mhm.
And as a defenseman, yeah, that's small. He's a right shot defenseman though. Are we forgetting that Chris Russell had a very long, productive career and was
Yeah.
one of the best, defensive players in his, realm?
Mhm.
That sucks. Let me be
Yeah.
blunt about that. And then just above him at 119 is Lucas Sachin. I think I said that right. I hope I did. He is a younger brother of Grayson Sachin, and he's got 30 points in 40 games for the Edmonton Oil Kings, who haven't had a great team this year. Like, they've
Mhm.
been fine, but nothing, that you came to expect when they had their run of, Tristan Jarry and, why am I blanking on his name? Laurent Brossoit. Some really, really good goalies.
Mhm.
Won the WHL championship a couple of times there. They're not that anymore, but Sachin is doing really, really well, and he's 119th because he is 5'9" or 5'10". Um, when I see stuff like that, it really frustrates me because these
Oh
are players who are doing really, really well, and you watch the games and they are noticeable. Like, you notice these guys. I'll throw in another guy there for you. Going on a tangent, I'm sorry. Jordan Gavin at 123. He was with Tri-City, got just traded to Brandon. He is 5'11". He was one of the most noticeable players on the ice when I watched him. He does have some defensive inconsistencies, but that is to me a solid second or early third round pick. He's got speed, he's got a really good drive for the net, and a pretty wicked shot. And it's served him pretty well this season. He's got a decent amount of points. I won't pull it up right now, but yeah, like, these are really talented kids, and they're getting overlooked because they're small. And like, let's stop that.
Yeah, I was going to mention Cameron Schmidt because yeah, he shouldn't be where he is. I mean, that's ridiculous. He's a first round pick for sure,
Mhm.
and I think like Peter, you have him in the top 15. So that's where I believe he should be. He won't be, and that's just unfortunately we every time I don't think we've projected these guys to be in that realm, but they never are picked there. It never happens. We'll see. We'll see where he actually falls. Like I say, I think he's gonna probably be drafted right where Cole Caulfield was. I think that's where he's gonna fall, even though that's still not where he probably should go. All right, let's shift to the international side and talk a few about this. I mean, Victor Eklund's still the first guy, Anton Frondell. Again, Peter, you had them flip-flopped, but there Eklund 1, Frondell 2. Rabkins 3. You got Milton Gastron at 4. Wojtek Kihar at 5. So, Dayton, I'll start with you with the international. Anyone that stands out as being surprised? someone you kind of want to maybe highlight here?
Um, I think with the international, it's a little bit tougher to be as familiar with some of these guys on this list.
Mhm.
I like the top two, Eklund and Frondell. I think those have been the two strongest. Ryabkin at three, maybe a little generous at this point, but I think Peter said it really well. Is like he should bounce back when he's now with Muskegon.
Mhm.
Um, Gastrin and Sihar, like they looked pretty strong. Sihar, especially at the World Juniors, I believe. I remember hearing his name a couple of times. East Wozniak, he's kind of fallen a little bit, so maybe seven is a bit generous at this point as well. But he's a solid kind of two-way guy, just maybe not quite the offensive presence that we predicted he would be when he was really strong. I believe it was at the under 18s.
So too, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's hard. I mean, when the viewings, it's hard to watch a lot of these guys. We're more obviously the viewings are a lot easier in North America to watch. But yeah, we'll see and talk a lot more about these European guys as we go through the draft and get a bit more coverage on them. Peter, what about you for like I said, you already have in your rankings, you've got the top two switched, but what do you think about this midterm rankings on the international skaters list?
Not gonna lie, a lot of names either I've been wanting to circle back on or haven't really heard of are on this list, but I'm going to list some of those names that I really wanted to circle back on. Seeing Eric Nielsen at number 6, um, he's a player that's really, really starting to capture my attention because of the size factor. I mean, he's got the height, but he needs to put on a little bit more weight, 154 pounds. But the smarts that he possesses is there. He's well over a point per game at the J20 level with Garden, 30 points in 25 games. But the skill that he brings, the smarts that he has, he's very, very cerebral type of player, but he's got a lot of factors going for him. He can play on both sides of the puck. He's very, very well adept at making strong passes and crisp plays within the offensive zone. Um, so to see him at number 6, maybe a little bit surprising, but one I could understand because of the IQ that he possesses and the way that he's able to read situation or different situations whenever he's on the ice, and he's able to act very, very quick and is always making the right moves. So I could understand that. Um, Lastly, Boleas, number 10. Again, this is very tough because a lot of the European names are it's a little bit difficult to get that grasp. And he was one name that I want to circle back on because he's very quick, he's very agile, he could cut gaps down, pressure opponents, keep him to the outside very well, but very, very inconsistent at times. So I don't know if that's worthy of being top 10, but we'll see. He is a name that has caught my attention as of late and one that I want to get more viewings on, but I really do like the potential that he has. Putting him top 10, I don't know, but we'll see. The other big surprise is Theo Stuxelius. 6'2", 181, 36 points in 27 games for Djurgården's J20. Uh Again, this is a team that has like very deep. Obviously, I just mentioned Nielsen, but there's also Arvid Drott, who's within the top 30, I believe. No, he's not even in the top 30. He's 45 or 43. He's within the top 45. I think I would move Drott a little bit higher up as well. But Stuxelius has a great offensive skill set and package that's really starting to blossom at this point right now. He's very, very smart. He, again, kind of like Nielsen, he could read situations very, very well, anticipate plays, take advantage of players' mistakes too. Good shot, great passing abilities. Um, if there's one riser that maybe he probably could have jumped up maybe into the top 10, I could understand why, because he's definitely flying under the radar, but he's been very productive at his age group. Um, 17 years old, so you know that when you're a little bit younger and you're going up against 18, 19-year-olds and you're putting up that kind of production where he is ranked within the top 15 of his age group. That's really really impressive at this point. So, really want to see more what he can do because of the fact that he's within the top 15. If he continues to produce this well, he's got the size going for him. He's got the smarts. He's got the offensive abilities. Let's see if he can keep it going and push his way a little bit further because I really want to see more of him.
For sure. Yeah, lots of seasons still to go for these guys, and of course playoffs as well. So we'll see a lot more of them. I mean, the World Juniors doesn't have a lot of these draft guys, but uh, there's a few other tournaments coming up that we'll be able to see them in as well. So lots of stuff still to come for viewings on these guys. One thing I'll say, Djurgården sure can. They sure have always good players. They got the top two guys right now playing for them in their system. So yeah, a pretty good organization there. All right. Well, Dayton, Peter, thanks for joining, talking prospects as we always do here. And the midterm rankings, it is, there's lots of stuff still coming up. We'll have the final rankings. Of course, that's way down the road, but that'll be the next ones that NHL Central Scouting puts out too. So, yeah, but we'll keep going on that. And we will have, of course, the profiles coming out not soon, but it'll be a while still and after the trade deadline, but we'll start working on those and they'll be coming out fast and furious right after the trade deadline, which is in March. But look forward to that and look forward to all of our prospect coverage over at thehockeywriters.com and all the draft features that will be coming out as well. But, and lots of excitement still to come. So thanks to everyone for joining us again. And until our next episode of Prospect Corner, we will see you next time.